Welcome to the Running Coaches Connections podcast. My name is Takashi Gold, and I'm the men's cross-country and track and field coach for the boys' teams at Skyline High School. With me today is Rolando Eccleston, the women's cross-country and track and field coach at Skyline High School, and Carl Spina, the men's and women's cross-country coach at Saline High School. We're very fortunate and excited today to have with us is Coach Ron Warhurst, the former head coach of the men's cross-country and women's track and field programs at the University of Michigan. He's had many Big Ten champions, All-Americans, several Olympians, and if you had a chance to talk to him at one point in your life, he definitely walked away with some amazing and funny stories. So, Coach, we truly appreciate you taking time to share some of them with us today.
Well, that's fine. I can share some of them with you. Most of them I can't. They're X-rated. But I coach the men's cross-country and track, not the women's track.
Oh, sorry,
Coach McGuire might take an affront to that, but that's okay.
Oh, sorry. He can take it out on me. My apologies, Coach McGuire. Just on a roll.
Well, at least you know I was paying attention in the introduction.
So, hey, Coach, I was wondering if you could kind of just introduce us a little bit about yourself and when and how you got started in coaching track and field and cross-country.
Okay. I went to Western Michigan. Well, I went to junior college in upstate New York in 61. Then I transferred out to Western Michigan, and I didn't know anything about the place. The year before, one of the guys that was racing in the junior college in upstate New York area won the junior college national championship. So when we raced their team the next year, I asked the coach, I said, where did John Dockstader end up going to school? And he said, oh, he went to Western Michigan. And I said, Western Michigan, where's that? You know, being from the East Coast, you know, back in the 60s, the only thing we thought about, you know, the Midwest was everybody went to the bathroom and outhouses and they wore straw hats from Pittsburgh out to California. That's how unknowledgeable we were at the time. But so I said, I thought Kalamazoo, Michigan was a fairy tale town, Kalamazoo to Timbuktu. And so that's how I got to Michigan. My buddy and I hitchhiked out. Took us 2 days, sight unseen at the school. And they didn't want to see a high school transcript. They just want my junior college transcript. So that was perfect because my grades weren't that good in high school. I grew up in Nutley, New Jersey. It's about 12 to 14 miles outside the Lincoln Tunnel. We used to go into New York City when we were kids, thinking we were really cool, but we were just little punks, finding our way. And so anyway, I got to Western Michigan, and I had never finished lower than 13th in a race in my life. And the first time trial, I was 22nd on the team, and I said, oh, my God, these guys are really, really good, or else I am really, really bad. And so I stayed with it. I struggled with it, and the next year, I think I got to be about 12th man. The next year I went home and I trained in the summertime. I didn't know about training, you know, run 2 miles, 3 miles a day in the summer. That was a lot. But I got letters from the coach, and I knew what to do, and so I kept going all summer and ended up being the number 2 and 3 and sometimes 4-man when we went back to school. The big motivational thing for our coach was that we would take a trip to the Air Force Academy is our first competitive meet. We run 2 time trials, and then we would fly on a plane to go to Colorado. This is in 1963. I think it was I don't think it was a jet. I think it was a propeller plane back then. And anyway, so that's where we got going. And then that next year, we won the National Cross Country NCAA Championship, and actually won it 2 years in a row. So I used to talk to the coach about training, and I said, yeah, we're running 4 or 5 times a week really hard, and I can't train, you know, I can't get mustered up to race. I just felt terrible in races. So then I took an anatomy and physiology class, started studying the stuff, and so I go back and forth with the coach, not an argument, just, you know, just questioning some things, you know. And the other guys on the team would put me up to it because I was the loudmouth from New Jersey, you know. So then Coach Parks was our assistant coach up there, and he moved to Eastern Michigan in the middle of the year, 66, I think it was. And then so George Dales, my coach at Western, said, what are you doing right now? And this was like in December. I said, oh, nothing. I'm just hanging out, being a hippie. And so he said, I need some help. Would you like to have a graduate assistantship from January until June? I said, oh, yeah, that'd be awesome. So I took 2 graduate classes, and I helped him with coaching, starting to, distance running and stuff like that. That's what Parks did. And then Parks called me in June and said, "What are you doing next year?" I said, "Absolutely nothing." So he said, "You want to come up and start a distance program for me?" And I said, "Sure." So I went up there and I started the distance program with him and coached the distance runners. And then that summer of '68, I enlisted in the Marine Corps for 2 years. I was 25 years old and thought it would be cool to go see what it was like to be in a war. So I found out, and when I came back, a friend of mine was at Western Michigan, just got into graduate school at Michigan, School of Economics. So I told him I was either going to re-enlist in the Marine Corps or go become a mercenary, or I didn't know what I was doing. He said, "Why don't you go back to Michigan?" I said, "That sounds like a better idea." So I bought a car and drove back to Michigan, and that was June of '70, and I went to work for the Institute for Social Research, and I was going to finish graduate school, and I said, "This sucks. I'm bored." So I didn't finish graduate school. And then I started running a lot, and Terry First and I was a friend of mine, runner from East, and we were the road running king. Road racing was just getting to be really pretty good at the time. And because of my experience in 1966 and 67, my buddy and I, we ran the marathon. We ran the Detroit Free Press Marathon. I think it was the Free Press or the Motor City Marathon. And first year I ran 2:30. The next year I ran 2:29. And we didn't have any aid stations. That's one thing I remember about it. I remember about being crippled for about a week afterwards because we didn't take any fluids or anything. But I started running around Ann Arbor and met the guys on the team and this and that. So I'd run with them on Sundays and talk about training. And then the coach quit coaching the distance guy. So they hired Jack Harvey, who was a field event guy. So he talked to the kids on the team. He said, "Oh, I got to hire a distance guy." And he said, "We got just the guy. We got just the guy." So I went for my first interview with Bermuda shorts and a T-shirt on at the Delta restaurant. And I'm thinking, "Oh, this is cool." So he asked me questions, and a few here, a few there. And my coach knew Don Canham, who was the AD at the time. So he said, "Well, I got to ask Don Canham, about, if you're one of the final three, well, I'll let you know when you come in for an interview." I said, "Oh, sure." So I said, "How many people are applying?" He said, "There are probably 60 or 70 people." I said, "Oh, okay, I'll talk to you later." I didn't think I had a prayer. So on that Thursday, 3 days later, Harvey called me and said, "Hey, would you want to come in for an interview with Canham?" And I said, "Oh, sure." I hung up the phone. I said, "Holy shit. I got to go get a pair of shoes now. I got to get long pants." Because I had to go do an interview with Canham, and that's how I got hired. He said I was local, I was single, and I was cheap. That's how I got the job. That was his. And so he just told me, "Hey, just don't screw it up when you get the job." I said, "Okay." So I'm not here to hire you. I'm just here to just check you out. Harvey's going to do that. I said, "Okay."
Wow. Couldn't wear Bermuda shorts the second time around, huh?
No. I had to put my bell-bottom pants on, back in the, the 70s. It's like I had red boots and bell-bottoms, and double-breasted.
Killing
like
it.
The Beatles used to wear. Went in to see them. And I'll tell you what happened after about 2 months of being in there. There weren't any women's sports, but there was a real small little coffee room downstairs. Cam, he bugged me. He said, "Hey, so why don't you get a haircut?" I said, "Don," I I really like you, but I don't make enough money to get a haircut and eat, pay my rent. I said that in front of a lot of people. So he knew that he if he was going to say stuff for me, he was going to, I wasn't going to not say anything back. And he was just to bum cigarettes from me. Always bumming cigarettes from me. I think that's the only reason he hired me. But as it lucked out, he didn't know what he got, and didn't know what he got. In the first year, we won the Big Ten cross country championship on Michigan's course, and I had to set the course up. And I said, if I'm gonna have a home course advantage, I'm gonna make this a bitch. And I made it very, very difficult.
Wow.
But there were about six Olympians in that race that year. Craig Virgin was in it, and Greg Meyer never became Virgin was a three-time Olympian world cross-country champ. Tommy Byers was in it, another kid named Byers. But Bjorklund was in it from Minnesota, was on the Olympic team, and Mike Durkin was a half-miler, made the Olympic team in 76, or maybe it was 80. Maybe it was 80 and so forth. So it was, Big Ten was pretty representative, pretty well represented at the Olympic trials and everything from 76 and 80. So that was how I got started. That kept me around until 2010.
And so you won your first Big Ten championship that fall, right after you started?
And the second year and the third year.
That's quite a start.
Oh, that's what I told Sully. I said, Sully, he wanted his second year. I said, come on, Kevin. I said, I wanted my first two. Come on, what are you doing? Get your ass off the bricks, man. Get going. I'll never let him slide on there. But they got the programs in really good hands right now with Sully and McGuire for the distances, and of course Henry does what he does. And Clayton's done a hell of a job with his field event people. So they got a really good combination of coaches in there now. Great to see. And then with that new building coming in, they won't even have to leave campus to recruit.
Right.
I mean that should be the nicest facility in the country.
When is this supposed to be done?
I think it's going to be done a year from December.
Oh boy.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know if you've been up past it or seen it. It is. I think they're going to have it bricked in by first snowflies. It's monstrous. I don't know if you've been down South State Street. It's like
I haven't gone down that way in a while, but I saw the stuff they have on the homepage on the website. I saw that.
Yeah,
and they had like that little 3D tour. Yeah.
That's what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I hear they're going to have like a janitor's closet with named after you or something.
They're going to make a urinal chain named after me. That's what they do.
You're going to have all kind of editing work. That'd be great, a urinal with your name over it.
Oh, yeah.
If we could go back to some of those championships, so what are some of those more memorable championships that you remember winning, and what was it that made some of those things so special?
I think the very first one is really special because I was, a new coach, and I didn't really know the guys that well yet. I just got to meet them, in September, or last week in August and September. And I told them, I said, and I had the workouts planned like I do all the time. When I took over in June. It was my first week in there. I was there 8 o'clock in the morning, and I used to run to work from when I was working up at the ISR, the Institute of Social Research. I'd run over to Ypsilanti by the football stadium. That's where I lived, in the Greenfield View Apartments or something. And I'd run back and forth to work. So the first month of waiting for my first paycheck, I was there. Boy, I didn't have any money. I have a pot to piss in. And so I waited to get my first paycheck so I could, bum a car from somebody. And then I met this young lady who was going to go to law school in California, but when she met me, and we got tied up, and long story short, she ended up switching her admissions to the University of Michigan Law School. So we were together 3 years. I'm married for 3, but that's a long story. She helped me out a lot. So the McGuire was on the first team, and Greg Meyer, and Billy Donikowski, who Meyer, of course, went on to win the Boston Marathon 2009, and Billy the year before went, or maybe it was 85. He won the USA Marathon Championships. Billy ran 2:10. This is 1985, I think. And so we were well represented with some pretty good distance guys at the time. McGuire was the first freshman to finish in the NCAA Cross Country Championships freshman year. So I walked in, I stepped in the goodies right away. I had 3 really talented kids. And then John Cross, Dr. Cross, who was the guy that takes care of us out in Hawaii, and the other guy was Keith Brown, who all those guys are still in touch with each other, by the way, after 40 years or 50 years of it, whatever, however long it's been. So, I remember setting the course up, and I said, I'm going to make this is going to be a bitchin' course. So if you've ever been on Michigan's golf course, the finish used to come around the pond, and you run up the 18th fairway to the top where you tee off. And the hill was so steep at the end of it that when you could see the kids coming from about 300 yards away, that they would disappear into the hill, and you couldn't see their heads. And all of a sudden, you see them come up out of the valley, and they were going. And people. So that's how steep it was. And I remember McGuire passed out in his chute and puked all over himself, but he didn't care because he had finished. And then we beat Wisconsin, and then the next year we went up to Wisconsin. And I picked up a kid named Steve Elliott, who ran 4:09 for the mile. I think he set the state record back then. He was from Pontiac Central. And then there was another kid named Jack Sinclair, who was a Class B kid. who had run like 4:14 or 15 that year. So we went up to Wisconsin, and they had big sheets. They had big spray paint on these sheets. Wolverines beware, this is Badger country. So we just looked at it and said, yeah. So I remember I was getting pretty excited. So we get into the huddle just before the start of it. You all put your hands in, they go rah rah ree, and so I'm there. I'm going. I was getting excited, going, okay, Meyer, you in the front row, and Billy, you start in the front row, Meyer in the front row, and Foster, you start in the front row, and they said, Meyer said, Ronnie, we'll take care of it. Don't worry. You got 5 guys in the front row. Only can have 3. We'll take care of it. I said, well, you guys take care of it. See you later. And they went, and we won. We put 4 in the top 10. That was a crushing blow to Wisconsin because we were a nobody the year before. I think they were 9th before my first year of coaching in the Big Ten, and then so they were the heavy favorites to beat us at our place, and they were really heavy favorites to beat us at their own place. But we ended up beating their asses. So that was my first memorable, years. And then most of it was, there was a couple other team things, but most of it was individuals and stuff. It all kind of blurs together so many years, so many beers later.
I hear a lot about the DMR with Willis, the indoor DMR. What do you remember of that race? That seemed pretty cool.
That's the first time I wanted to punch him.
All right, all right, continue.
Well, no, yeah. Well, actually, when Sully was a freshman, we had Sully and a kid named Carfonta who was from Pinckney, and Trinity Townsend who was a quarter miler from Muskegon, and I think Ian Forsythe might have been on the team. Anyway, we were trying to qualify for the national championship. I think the qualifying time was like 9:36 back at that time. So what we did is Gary Weineke from Illinois said, "Hey, you guys want to put one together?" So we did. We put one together at our place here in Ann Arbor, and we ran 9:33, which I believe at the time was a world record or the world best, because they didn't count them as world records. They counted them as world best because not everybody runs them. So that was the first time we got recognized as, hey, these guys got a team going. But for that, from the 90s on, the modern track and field. So from then, it was, and we ended up winning the NCAA indoor championship that year in the distance medley. Sully anchored. He ran 3:55 in the mile, and an hour later ran 3:58 or something like that. 6 anchor in a distance medley with less than an hour rest. So he was pretty good. But when we were down at the Willis and Nate and was it Rondell Ruff, or I forget who was. Oh, Ellerton was on it too. And I told him, I said, we got a chance to break the record if we're going. Give Willis the lead. And I told Ellerton, I said, don't. If you get a chance to, and you're gonna pass the guy, I said, don't pass him. I said, just hang on him and let Willis get the baton in second place, because I said he won't want to run from the front. So Ellerton backed off and straight away and gave Willis about a 3-yard deficit, which was nothing, and it was perfect because he just wanted to sit on somebody and outkick him. That's his favorite tactic. So they're going like hell. I'm going, oh, he's going, and he just goes crazy. He comes off the turn. I looked at the clock at him, and he's kind of starting to smile and wave and just kind of jog in. And I'm going, Willis, I'm saying, you SOB, get going. We're going to break the national record. And we did. We ran 9:27, but we could have run 9:25. But he was lollygagging in, Oh yeah, we got the win, So I had a few words for him,
I think you said that was
the fun day. What's that?
I think you said that was the first time you wanted to punch him.
Yeah, the second one was, I think, the next day when he dropped out of the 3,000 for no reason. And we had a chance to, I think we ended up 6th, maybe 5th that year, but we had a chance to get 2nd or 3rd in the team title. And he dropped out 1,000 meters to go in the 3,000, and he was just, he had done a lot. Nate Brandon that year ran the prelims in the distance medley. He ran like 250. In the finals. I mean, it was the finals. He ran like 253, leading the distance medley off. And then he ran a heat in the 800. He ran 148.9 or something. And then he came back and he won the 800. He was a national champion in the 800. And Willis had won the mile. So then they're coming back. We had 3 guys in the 3,000. And Nate's hanging in there. And Willis is running right there, and at 1,000 meters to go, I hear one of the kids say, "Oh, the Michigan kid dropped out." And I go, "Oh shit, Nate, that's not really his forte, And I come around, I look across the track, and there's Brandon comes by me, and there's Willis on the infield, leaning on a water cooler, taking a drink of water with a kind of a smile on his face. And I'm starting to fume. I'm going, that son of a bitch. I said, he better be on his hands and knees. He better broke his ankle or something. Why did he drop out? And he comes walking across the track, after the race was over. And I walked up to him, and I looked at him, and I said, don't you ever fucking do that again. Don't you ever drop out of a race again in front of me. Unless you're dead. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. And then 10 minutes later, I'm going, I got 10 minutes. I give them an hour to kick the can when they screw up, so I give myself 10 minutes to be pissed off, and then I got to get back onto the horse, So you can't, you can't let it rot you, boy, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
And one of the hardest things I had to learn was not to, when the guys didn't run that well, that I blamed it on myself because I thought it was my fault that, I didn't train them properly or this or that, something like that. And after a while, you got to realize that, hey, you train them the best you can, you give them the best preparedness that you have, and give it to them, and then they have to take responsibility for, for a little effort too. Once the gun goes off, you're basically, it's up to them to know what the hell's going on, and thinking on their feet. Sometimes it's difficult for young kids, but when you're in college, it's got to be, come on, boys, this isn't junior high running anymore. You know all about it. You've been here. You're not 15 years old anymore. It's not a surprise to you. And with the younger kids, the high school kids, the girls and guys, that you think they're ready, and they screw up, and for the life of them, they don't know what happened. Well, they just choked. They got all nervous and couldn't handle the pressure. And as a coach, you get pissed off. You want to wring their necks because they're ready based on what you've got them, what you've had them doing in workouts and stuff.
Right.
And then after a while, you go, well, I can't control that, and then you learn, but. It certainly hurts when you think they're ready and they don't, and you don't know what to say, And when I ask, what happened, Coach? Well, I don't know. I wasn't in the race. What happened? Tell me what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, my legs just wouldn't go.
Right.
Well, it's kind of tough. It's kind of tough to start kicking when you got your head up your ass and the other hand around your neck trying to pull it out. So it's pretty difficult to run that way.
That's the truth. That is the truth.
Yeah.
You had a lot of guys just come through that door you had over there coaching at U of M. That means you were recruiting like a champ. How were you getting all these big time athletes to come out? What were you looking for? Were you always looking for the big name or somebody that maybe flying underneath the radar? Because you've had consistency.
Early on, there wasn't any limitations because there weren't any, the first 4, 5, 6 years that I coached, there weren't any women's sports. We didn't start getting the women's sports, 78. And I think the first track team might have been 1980, I'm not sure, for women. So it was a little, we didn't have all these rules and regulations and restrictions. But, I'd go to the state meet, pick out a kid or two, or the kids based on the time from the year before. You got the state meet results from the free press of the news. You didn't have the internet. There wasn't any way to find things out. There wasn't something like what you guys got going here. That wasn't on. So you had to go to meets and meet the coaches, and then you get the kid's phone number from the coach, where you find out where he lives, you get an address, and then you call the kid up and start talking to him. And early on, it was like I thought, I better call him, once or twice a week. And then I started thinking to the week, the time, hey, what are you going to talk about after the initial come on and saying, hey, I know you got good times and everything like this. You watch them compete and stuff, and let's set up a visit, and I'll start calling you. But I used to tell the kids, I'm not going to call you every week because I'm interested in you. You're interested in me. Tell me about a race, this and that. But the weather's the same every day. When I'm talking to the kid, what's the weather like where you're at? Oh, it's same in Detroit as it is in Ann Arbor,
Right.
So you get, and after you talk to 15 or 20 kids, you go, I'm saying the same shit to them over and over again. So that gets to be pretty old. But when the kids respond to you pretty well, and there isn't this, the parents try and hold you up for scholarships. That's just pretty natural. And it was in our day and my day. And it is today, Yeah. And the high school coach, the college coach, high school coach is trying to get whatever they can for the kids, which is just a natural instinct, for them to try and help them out. And the college coaches are trying to get the kids for as cheap as they can be because they're trying to spread the wealth around. With the women's team, they get 18 scholarships for about 65 people. The men's team has only got 12 scholarships spread out for 4 years for cross-country, indoor, and outdoor track. So you got to be pretty cautious with your scholarships if that's the type of program you have. If you got a full track program, there's schools like Villanova and Providence and part of Georgetown and Syracuse and those schools. They just have all distance. Basically, 90% of it's all distance programs. So they can be pretty, they can split scholarships 50-50. And then you get the lesser schools, like you might be recruiting a kid and going to offer him a 40% or something, and then a school like Wheaton College of Illinois offers a kid a full scholarship. Oh, yeah, that sounds cool, but, so where's the kid going to go from there?
Right.
And the parents used to annoy me sometimes. They'd be going, well, I think my son deserves a full scholarship. And I go, really? I go, okay. I said, so you want me to guarantee your son a full scholarship? I think we think he's worth it. And I go, okay. I said, so I'm offering you a guarantee. You want me to guarantee the scholarship? I said, what are you going to guarantee me in back for my scholarship? Are you going to guarantee me your son's going to run under 4 minutes after a year? Is he going to be in the top 3 in the Big Ten? Is he going to be in the top 5 in my cross-country team? And if he doesn't, are you going to give me some money back? Oh, no, I never thought about it like that. I go, well, that's the way I'm thinking about it.
Right.
I told McGuire and Selby to start doing that, just not to be nasty to him, but just, hey, look, you got to look at it from our perspective, too. Right. Obviously, they're looking at it to take care of their child and wanting to be, and, it's expensive as hell to go to college these days. And there's no guarantee when you get a kid that they're going to pan out. No way.
Right.
And I used to take walk-on kids and just call them up and say, hey, come on to campus and stuff. And what I would do is I'd save a scholarship every year. Harvey and I used to do this. And when a kid was a sophomore, junior, and he started becoming really, really good, we'd give them scholarships. We put the kids on scholarship after they got to school, which seemed to work out pretty well. Because then if you make a mistake on a kid, you're not suckered for a year with a full, or 2 or 3 years with a full scholarship when you got 4 or 5 other kids that are beating his ass, but you don't have any money for him because you made a mistake on one kid. So I think that's the reason why a lot of coaches don't want to, give the kid a full ride. If they're at a major big-time program, you're not going to get a full ride usually, depending on who else they have on the team. But it's always better. I always say, hey, we'll give you a third now. And I said, if you get better, when you get to be, really make a big contribution, we'll give you more money. And so that's the way the recruiting is, and it's kind of tough. I don't know if that's the way those guys talk to the kids about recruiting or to parents. So I think it was more about the process, not about how and when you get money and, how that offer comes about, but more about the process of ACTs, SETs, get the things in early and all that stuff. But I used to love some of my really good kids. I had a kid that was a 452, 957 kid. They ran 4:10 and 13:40 for 3 miles, and he was on a Big Ten championship team. Another kid ran 17:40 something for 5K. I didn't know his name the first 3 months. And now he's a colonel in the Air Force. He come down, I see this kid sitting on the bench. I go, hey, how you doing? Oh, hi, coach. I go, I know. And he was so far behind sometimes in workouts, he thought he was first. That's how far behind he was. But he ended up being, in our top 7 for the NCAA championship, and he won the Big Ten championship, and we got 4th. We got medals for being in, top 4 in the and the NCAA championship. And who would have guessed it? A 17:40 kid. He won more of the salt and track at all, but he wanted to be a distance runner, and he had that stick to it. Man, he got knocked down every day, and he kept coming back, and that's the type of thing you want. And when he went into the Air Force, he asked me to stand up for him because I was in the Marine Corps and stuff. So that was pretty cool. And but you got a million stories like that. It's a treat. Even some of the kids that are a pain in the ass, you remember them for certain things that they had. There was something special about them besides being a pain in the ass. They were good kids. There's always something that rings a bell when even you guys. You're dealing with young kids that are just growing up and their personalities are changing, and they come back 5 years later, and sometimes you don't recognize them, especially the guys. Sometimes the voices, hey, hi, coach, how are you? The boys drop in there when they're 20 years old. Yeah. And it's always and you find yourself coaching not just out on the track, but what they're doing with their lives and stuff. You give them a little advice here and there, and they're looking for advice. They're looking for somebody to talk straight to them. Because so many times people are blowing smoke, The parents are, some of them are BSing them. Some teachers are, their buddies, some other coaches are. And so it's always cool when you give them some straight talk, and it's like they're floored, but they come back a year or 2, 3 years later and say, that was the best advice I ever got.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't ask for it, but I gave it to you.
Coach, I got a question. With with some of your guys that have been really, really successful and had that opportunity to keep continuing their running careers professionally or just at the next level, I was wondering if you could kind of touch base on your Olympic experiences, particularly in this recent one was pretty unique. Did you have 4 guys there? Is that right? You had Willis, Brandon, Julian Matthews, and Hamish, right?
Hamish Carson, and then Nate was there from Canada, more directly involved with the 3 New Zealanders. With the way Willis has had a lot of success up here. A lot of the younger kids after his first medal in 2008, he went around to the schools and must have spoke to 3,000 or 4,000 kids. But those 2 guys were like 16, 17 at the time, sophomore, juniors, and so they became very, they wanted to keep going, and they did. And here it is 6, 8 years later, and they're part of the Olympic group. So, and I think they'll both they're going to continue as Nick is and they're going to go to 2020. So it's always a treat to get new guys in there. Those guys were, it's like the point of it is people say, oh, that's really great. You got guys in the Olympics. It must be a great experience for them just to be in the Olympics. And we go, yeah, what about Nick? He's, must be just wonderful for him. And I go, well, I said the goal was to get to the Olympics, but once we get to the Olympics, the goal is not just to get there. For Willis, it was to get a medal. It wasn't just the goal to get to the first round and second round and get to the finals. The goal was to do all that stuff, but the final goal was to get the medal, and that was really cool. I think if he would have been 4th, he wouldn't have been so excited about going on to the next level, to the next 4 years. And the younger kids were just really, they were both kind of having issues with injuries, and they got through them, and they made it to the first round, and that was fine for them. But they're still motivated to keep going. And you get guys like Timmy Bro from 2004. I had Sullivan and Willis and Nate. Who was it? Nate. Tim Willis and Sully and Timmy in Athens in 2004. And that was a start. That was a big experience for Willis, and he did get to the final, made it to the semis. And Timmy that was his first Olympics, and he made it to he was in the finals of the 5,000, which is incredible, considering he was a steepler when he came to me, and he was, I think, 11th or 12th in the final. But those types of things are, and those guys have with Timmy and Sully and those guys, when you go on with them and you coach them after college, they become more than just athletes. They become a friend. It's not like your friends you have when you're in college. It's like they're old. You're older, but they're younger, type of thing. And like Meyer and McGuire and Donikowski and the other 4 guys on the 74 championship team are still buddies. So those are the things that are long lasting, and not just the Olympians, but the guys that were teammates back then, and were pretty darn good at the time. So those are the experiences. I mean, there's so many. The very first one when Brian Deemer was a surprise, nobody knew who he was, and he made the steeplechase team, and he made the semifinals, and then he makes the finals. And I talked him. I was at Frazier's Pub, and I said with him, never had a beer in his life. He had 1 beer, I think, the only time in his life, and that was that night. And I said, "You're going to get a medal, Deemer." I said, "There's no reason why you went this far. Why do you not think you can't get a medal?" And it turned out that he ended up passing people in the last over the last barrier. A kid named Henry March, who was the big U.S. star at the time in '84. And Deemer got him over the last barrier and was 3rd, and he was 4th, and the guy collapsed. But I told Deemer, I said, I'm watching these guys in the prelims and everything, and I said, and Deemer, I said, when the gun goes off, I want you to count 1,001 and then let them go, and then you start running, because they're going to race their butts off to the first hurdle, and then by the time everybody gets to the back stretch, they're going to slow it down. So you don't get all caught up in sprinting your tail off and bumping and grinding and all this stuff and get knocked down. I said, just go real comfortable. If you get a chance to look at the start of the finals of the steeple in '84, I think they got it on YouTube. You can see, looks like the gun goes off and he looks like he's slow motion getting out of the blocks. But that was a planned deal. And then the tactics, he was a very good tactician, but Willis is stubborn. Talk about tactics and, tell him to stay off the curve. He loves the curve. He thinks he's got to run the shortest distance. It almost cost him a medal at the Olympics, but he was lucky when it opened up. And the last 40 meters, he accelerated faster than anybody. He passed, I think, 4 people coming down there. But it's the Olympics are exciting and everything's just so glamorous and everything. But the hardest thing for those guys to do is focus on what the job at hand is, and that's to perform, to get ready for their races.
Yeah.
And it's the first one is it's like all open, but the second and third time that they're at the Olympics, they got a much better focus on what's happening.
What do you do during all that downtime? Like, there's got to be, like you said, you're there to compete, you're there to race, but there's
they hang out in the village, and when they get a chance, they get out of the village. And we've always had places to stay outside the village, they jog and they do their workouts, but a lot of it's watching TV and talking with people and hanging out and doing this and getting out of the village and going and doing certain things. But they get pretty nervous about being on their feet all the time, so they want to get back. I've got to get back. They have to take naps in the morning and the afternoon. I think that's more nerves than anything else. But I didn't do too much sightseeing in Rio, I'll tell you that.
No?
There was 12 million people in the city, and I'll bet you 7 million live in poverty. So I wasn't going out. I wasn't like those swimmers. They were adventurous, those boys.
Yeah.
Knuckleheads.
Yeah.
Knuckleheads.
That's some really good choices.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Coach, kids will be kids, okay? Even if he's 30, kids will still be kids. Don't forget that.
Yeah, right. Can I use that excuse too?
Yeah.
He's just a kid sometimes. He's 74. Yeah, he's just a kid. He's a wayward kid at 74. Those kids are. He was just a little brat, I guess. That kid that was, acting out like that. Especially they were told, hey, be careful. Don't be going out into the city and doing stuff, especially 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. A
Not
little
a good
liquid
idea.
courage. That's some liquid courage that went the wrong way. Yeah.
And they were lit up too, those boys.
Oh yeah.
You could see them on the tape.
I didn't watch it twice.
No, you didn't have to. I was more embarrassed.
Yeah.
It was embarrassing, guys. What did they act that way for? And then they're lying about it,
Right.
You got it on tape, and they're trying to make up stories, and their stories aren't jiving. Admit it. You got caught. You acted like a little knucklehead. So, take the bait, man. Take the punishment instead of lying their way out of it and whining like little babies, because that's what they're like anyway, those kids. Spoiled.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, because you've seen some of the best meets ever. I'm trying to figure out how we get that excitement down on our level, because coaching that Skyline, it's hit or miss, and more often it's miss and miss again. We just can't get the following. How do you create excitement around the sport, and not just as a coach and within the team, but now that you're retired and you've seen really good meets, what could be changed to make things more exciting and better?
Well, I think what they do in Europe is pretty cool. Is the meets that you guys have, you're putting on, and they go from 9 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. And the only people you really have there as spectators is the kids' parents, 9 times out of 10, because it's such a long, drawn-out hoopla. And the things in Europe, they've got like 6 or 7 men's events and 6 or 7 women's events. And I know you can't do that in the high school situation, because it's mass everybody gets to do it.
You're right.
And you can't have elite. They don't want elite stuff in the high schools, You gotta have an elite mile or something like that. Well, if you have an elite mile, you gotta have a junior varsity and a freshman in the 6th grade, and 4th grade, 3rd grade, 5th grade type of stuff.
Right.
If you could make it a special event, so there's kids that are. Hold on, my son. This is the podcast. I'm talking to your coaches.
Oh, really?
Yep. Give me a shout out. The
What's up, Luke? What up, Luke?
He's a turd, and he's a turd, and he wants a shout out. I'll give you a shout out. Got ribs? Okay. Okay, this might be a short, fun conversation. They just came home with some ribs. Oh boy. Take my time because he's going to eat them all.
Yeah. Ask him about the last time he ate ribs. What happened?
Oh man.
Yeah, he got sick probably.
Yeah.
But so that's it's really hard to promote anything like that because especially in high school, if you can promote a lot of excitement with your team, among themselves, and support each other, support the girls' team and the guys' team within the team, you create a lot of excitement about what the kids are doing and what they're each individually doing and what the total sum of the team is. Everybody's got a part of it, and then when the worst kid on your team, your number one turd, comes in and the other kids are cheering and yelling for him, either he or she, that's what makes them feel good about it, and that gets everybody excited into the end about being part of the team.
Yeah.
And it's tough, and you don't get much support from. Obviously, I've seen you don't get any support from the administration. They screw you on buses all the time. It's just like you're just like second-class citizens, and so you really have to create the environment among yourselves before you can expand out with it. Right. And I think just having pretty good, always got really good kids. If you get 90, you'll always have a 10%er. I always say you get 90 kids, and out of the 100, you get 100 kids. You get 95 kids that are great. And then you got 2 that are really idiots, and then you got 3 that you just want to kill. And you gotta win them over, and in my situation, I never had any problem with parents because I very rarely talked to parents. I would always want to talk to the kid, but with you guys, it's like everybody's entitled these days. The kids act like a little jackass, and you give them some heat or talk to them, give them a going over, and then their parents want to come to town and say, well, you can't talk to my kid like that. Well, maybe if you would have talked to your kid like that, we wouldn't have this conversation because they would be little jackasses. You want to say that. You want to say that to them, but,
right.
Well, how come my kid isn't getting a chance to run? Well, your kid's a really bad runner. And there's 52 people ahead of them, and I only can run 50. How do you like that?
Right.
Those are the things you like to say. But you got to be politically correct in your position. That's for darn sure.
Oh, yeah. Censored all the time.
But, just being watching around and being out of college and stuff, you guys, I think, Celine does a great job. Dexter was doing a great job. You guys are doing a good job, and I get to know all the coaches and stuff. And then, there isn't one of the guys that I know that I talked to, those guys those schools mentioned, I wouldn't mind one bit for Luke to run for anybody. Everybody's a good situation. And he is really taken. That's how I can tell as a coach how the kids are like the situation. He's really taken to being on this team and with the guys that are on the team. And I told him, I said, this is what teamwork is all about. This is about the team. I said, what did Bo Schemberger used to say? The team, the team, the team. And I said, when you walk down the hallway in school, you'll see some of your teammates. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Versus nobody. Not the football players aren't going to talk to you. Basketball players ain't talking to you. Hockey, your swimmers ain't talking to you. It's going to be your team members, and because they're ninth graders, they're going to be a little bit shy of the girlies. Hopefully, most of them are. They're going to nod to them, but they're not going to be hanging out, leaning on lockers, talking with the girlies.
Right.
And it's a big socialization for them, and I think that's real important for what you guys do. Even sometimes they get too socializing and they don't want to do the workouts and stuff. And the bottom line is they still have to race and perform. That's the bottom line. And no matter how nice you can be or how bad you can, nasty you can be to them, they still have to get it in their heads that they are a part of a group that's trying to strive to be something and do something, and everybody's got to make a contribution. So, nut it up sometimes, boys and girls. Let's go.
Yeah.
Easy for me to say.
But you're right, though. You're right.
It's a difficult situation, and you're in it with administration, with parents, with kids, with teachers, everybody. So competing against other coaches for kids.
Yeah. It's tough over there. But we find a way to make it work, and we always have fun. We always have a good time.
I noticed that. And that's why the kids like being on those teams that you got. Carl does the same thing. He's got so many kids that's been established over the years That's like now the football is big again. But I mean, it's either football, and that's a limited situation, and then the socialized thing about being on the women's cross country and track team and the guys cross country and track is, it's been passed on for the last 10 or 12, 15 years. That Smith was there, and he got it going, and he stayed there long enough to really get it developed. I think some of the issues with not just you guys, but other schools around the area in the state, that coach, you get a good coach in there and he's doing stuff, and or he doesn't want to be, he doesn't want to be a teacher anymore, and they move on, they go to other places and stuff.
Yeah.
So being in one place for a long period of time is always a good sign that, especially if they keep performing. They don't have to be superstars every year, but you always have a top 10 team. That's a lot of fun. Top 15 or whatever. When you get 300 or 400 teams in the state you're competing against.
Yeah.
So whenever I see you at a meet, Ronnie, whenever I'm with our boys, whether it's a small group or it's a whole team, like we ran into you at the Skyline, I think it was the dual meet or the conference meet, I want to get my boys around you because you always know exactly what to say to them. You may have never met the kid. You may have no idea what event he's racing, but you always you have the right line. Like, where does that come from? How do you always, where do you get all these tidbits? And don't just say because you've been
I've been, I wasn't quite as outgoing when I was younger. I was more concerned about my team, and then with the guys, and I would say things to the guys on the team that if I said that these days with the girls around, I'd be fired in a heartbeat. I talked to McGuire, the girls and stuff, they start coming around. I go, if you're going to be around, you got to listen to my language, and it might not be cool. So I used to give Mindy Schmidt was one of the ones I used to get. She was crying, running around workouts on the track. I'd say, get your ass over here. I said, go sit in the goddamn corner and sit there until you get rid of this boo-hoo shit. And then when you're done with the boo-hoo shit, get back on the track and finish the goddamn workout. You understand? Okay, yes. And it was always like, if you always want your ass kicked, go talk to Ronnie. He'll kick your ass in a nice way and still love you. But you can look at kids' eyes in there, and sometimes the lights are on, but nobody's home. You can see they're scared shitless before a meet. Oh my God! And I just, everybody has got the butterflies in their gut. Everybody does, and it's the people that learn how to control that emotion that usually come through for you. Otherwise, that adrenaline rush comes on an hour too soon, and then by the time they're ready to race, they have no energy. They're just flattened out. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm around kids all the time that I've been around kids all the time, and I'm so fucking old. I don't give a shit when anybody thinks or says to me, and I'm not afraid to talk to kids. I'll talk to anybody, and I go, hey, come over here, get over here. Oh my God, this old man, and you get their attention, and then if you can just say one or two words or one sentence after you got their attention, that they'll listen, and they go, and then you just kind of look at them and you see their eyes twinkling, and then their face starts smiling, so they got it, the comment, and then you got to end it right then and go away and say, now go take care of your business and walk away. It's my contention is the last thing you tell them before a competition when it gets close is the first thing they forget in the competition.
That's funny.
It's just I don't know. I find it very easy. I like people, and I like some parents, not all of them. But I like the coaches. I mean, if I got a lot of experience in my head, and some coaches don't want to tell people what they do, and I want to tell everybody what we did because why shouldn't it'd be a waste if I die and not share my experience with coaching and how to do things that help people get better. Right. And it doesn't matter if it's my guys or if it's young kids like you guys coach. You might pick up a tidbit or two when we're chatting all the time. We're having a coaches meeting about training and why I did the things that I did, and I changed it. The most important change I think I made in my coaching was when I started doubling up workouts with these guys from the college thing. And I think you can do it with high school kids instead of running. Like I know, Carl, and you guys, you come over and you run the Harvard Hill, and we'll do 10 or 12 and then go back to the track and run 10 or 12 quarters. You could, if you could get to the track, you could run like 6 Harvards and go back to the track and run 6 quarters. And, with the 2 mile jog in between. And I started doing that, and I'm going, well, we're doing 10 hills, nice, let's go back to the track. I go, but they can run 4 quarters now in about 65, so I shortened the rest. And then they did five quarters, and I said, shit, that wasn't bad. Let's try 6 or 10. So we ended up, when I was at Michigan, we'd do 10 Harvards in the wintertime, and 60 was the big thing at the time. Then 55 was the big, 55 seconds. And then we run back to, you could have a foot of snow going over to the Harvard, and it was always plowed because it's a cul-de-sac. You could always find a place to run over there. And they'd run back in the snow. They'd get back inside, and we'd say, okay, you got 3 more minutes, let's go. You know, we're going to run 6 6s and 134, you know, with a short rest, or run 10 quarters at 66 with a, and this is with these 4-minute milers, you know, with a 50-meter jog in between. Right. And after they're doing the hills, and you give them 55-meter jog, it's 20 seconds maybe, that's an ass kicker, especially doubling up. And they started getting used to it. And so they're all thinking, we don't know if we can do this. I used to give them workouts that I knew I could look them in the eye, and they go, that guy's fucking crazy. We can't do this. And they would do it. And I go, now, was that difficult? And they go, you know, it really wasn't that bad. But, you know, they prepare themselves to fail before they give themselves an opportunity to succeed by trying and do the workout, you know. They're all afraid.
Wow.
All afraid.
And that's why I like talking to you all the time, because you keep dropping jewels like that.
Yeah. And it's fun. I like, you know, talking with you guys. You're the, you know, I've talked to Carlin, and, you know, and since Luke's running with you guys all the time, it's fun to be able to. I told Luke, I said, I'm not telling anybody how to coach you. I said, those guys know what they're doing. I said, if they have a question, they'd ask me, and I would tell them what I think. But I'm not saying, hey, you should do this, this, and this. They have their experience. That's why they're there doing what they're doing. And they're young, and they're learning, and they've got great, you know, they've proven they can coach really well. I said, but if they ask me questions about training and stuff like that, I'll tell them, because I don't want it to be left in my brain if I die tomorrow. Don't talk like that, Dad. Okay, next week. How's about next week? That's not funny, dude. Yeah.
So going back to the Olympics real quick, because we're curious about this. How does your experience in Rio compare to the other ones you went to?
I was much more confident in Rio about what Willis was going to do. And with less racing, because he's getting older, we experimented again. I mean, we changed things up. Some of our basic workouts were the same, our 1,000 and 4 4s and 1,000. You know, different other workouts that we do, 2 times 12, 4 4s and a 12. Some of the basic things we've done over the past 10 or 12 years. Those are the things I gave Timmy to do too when he was here in 2002 and 4. Those are our staples. And so we didn't race as much, but the way the workouts went, it was just like, God damn, he's hitting everything just right. And the experience was going down. It was like, you know, my wife was upset because of the mosquitoes and the terrorists and all that, you know, and I said, I'm going. I mean, I got mosquito spray. You know, the terrorists, if they're gonna blow things up, they're gonna blow things up. They could blow my plane up when I'm flying to, you know, to California, for God's sakes. I'm not afraid of that. And that's why I carry pencils on the plane. Sharpened pencil. I'll stick them in the eye. And
you really carry pencils on the plane?
I carry 2 sharpened pencils, really long ones, in my backpack. Ask Willis, he'll tell you. And
top 3 best things I've heard today.
I think of 9/11, you know, and I'm thinking, if those bastards had a little razor thing, and I'm not sitting there and saying I'm diving in this plane into the, you're dying before you get to the ground, and I will too. And you know, I'm not going down without a fight. So I decided that the most unobtrusive thing is to sharpen pencils. It's about an 8-inch pencil, and just know where to stick them with it, and, you know, put it in the palm of your hand and go right into the neck. And hey, if you're going to go down, you know, if you're going to know you're going to die, you might as well fight for it instead of crying. And I figure if I'm going to go to hell or go to heaven, I'm going to have friends either place, so it doesn't make shit how I get there.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
But about Rio, it was there's 12 million people in the city, and you know they showed all the bad barrios and stuff. But from the Olympic Village to the Olympic Stadium was a renovated soccer stadium in a real bad neighborhood, and there were military guys all over the place, groups of 4 every 50 meters. There was 3 guys that each had a machine gun, and this other guy had a scatter gun, a big shotgun, and they were the Army boys. They were, you know, trained troops. But going from the Olympic Village to that stadium was about a half-hour to 40-minute drive, and it was on the main highway. There's a lot of highways, but when you look to the left and to the right on your way to the Olympic Stadium, it was slums both sides. So I would say if there's 12 million people in the city, I'd say 7 million of them about are living in poverty. And I think that, I don't know, you could probably check stats on it or whatever, but that's pretty damn close. It was. And I didn't have any issues with any. So those guys told me that when they finally got into the Olympic Village, it was okay. And, you know, there's so much atmosphere about the drugs. Kids are using the drugs. The athletes are using drugs. And, you know, well, listen, being in a distance event is definitely a pain in the ass because you know that I would think there was at least 5 or 6 guys that were in the finals that were dirty out of the 12 or 13 that were in it. And it would be really nice if they could get that cleaned up. The IOC and, you know, WADA and all those guys and Lord Coe, it's all so corrupt and dirty, you know. The Kenyans don't even have in country testing. So if they get that cleared up, I think Willis will be on the podium again. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But that was my experience this year. Tokyo should be good. Tokyo would be awesome because they are so particular about what they do, and they've got a lot of the things already built. They're ready to go right now. I think they could put Olympics on next year. That's how fanatical they are.
Yeah.
You know, they're the technology gurus. You know, they'll have more fancy stuff than you know what to do with over there, and it'll be very safe. So
I'm excited for the next one. They still got to wait 4 years.
I know. You know, but you know what? I'll tell you, it's like I told Luke this summer in August. I said, you know, before you know it's going to be November, and you know, we talked about that. You know, hey, here it is. You guys got the regionals next week. You know,
right.
And the kids like Carl, some of Carl's kids come in, some of your kids come in. This is in August. I'm saying, you guys don't understand. It's going to be here before you know it. And then here it is, bingo. It's 8 weeks later, getting ready for the regional. Leaves are turning. It's football season. Michigan's kicking ass. Ohio State choked. Michigan State ain't playing worth. I'm ready.